Hey, Kyler here. Our aim for this show is to leverage every opportunity that life throws at us. I hope you find value in today's show.
Welcome back to the Leverage Life Show. Look at us.
In
We're
person.
we're in person today. We need a better high five. That was
That
better.
was
A little
okay.
bit better high five. About a 75%. We are talking if you have a 5 million estate and up, there is a make or break issue that's going to happen right now in your estate in your life insurance. If your life insurance is not structured correctly, listen to me. It will literally make or break the liquidity in your estate. It has to be structured this very specific, certain way. And that's why we need to dive into it today on our 5th episode in the diagnostic. 8 questions every wealth transfer plan needs to be able to answer.
Perfect. Cord, life insurance is important. We've talked about it many times. Obviously, when you're talking about estate planning, it is part of the conversation. Every estate planner that I've talked with, they say it's part of the conversation they have with
Mhm,
their clients, and it should be for great reasons. Now, there are different reasons you would get life insurance. We've talked about if you are in your primary parenting, like young adult years, kind of like ourselves, our situations look different compared to somebody that
mhm,
has a massive net worth, right? 5 million, 10 million plus.
mhm.
When you're looking at somebody that has a larger net worth, there's just different things to consider. And one of them being is liquidity in the context of estate planning and estate taxes. So, as of right now in 2026, we've talked about this before. Individuals, it is 15 million for the estate tax threshold, 30 million for married couples. So that's not going to include a lot of people. However, it's worth part of the conversation if you are somebody that's maybe in their 40s. You're in the accumulation years of their lifetime. And so they're business owners, they're real estate investors, they're people that are gaining massive amounts of wealth and maybe relatively quickly too, depending on the person, of course. But it's somebody that maybe 10 to 15 years down the road, they may actually have an estate tax problem
Mm,
that might sneak up on them and they may not actually have been aware of it. And so it's going to be really important to make sure that you have that conversation with people that are on that trajectory
mhm.
to make sure that you are actually planning appropriately for 10, 15, 20 years down the road. That way you're not leaving your family with a burden when you do pass away. So when we're looking at life insurance in the context of estate planning, we talk about liquidity specifically. When you get into those higher thresholds of a net worth, you've got to consider what does the life insurance picture look like and
Mhm.
how much you actually need. So like I say, it looks different for everybody, and a lot of people aren't actually going to be in the situation where they do have estate taxes, but there's many people that do. And so if you are somebody that is maybe on the borderline of those thresholds, or you're in your 40s and you are gaining wealth and your projected lifetime wealth by the time you do pass away potentially is going
Mhm.
to be around those thresholds, it's worth a conversation to say, hey, do I have the liquidity I need to pay for estate taxes? And if you don't, then life insurance is a great vehicle to have
Mhm.
the liquidity in order to actually pay for those estate taxes.
So one thing I want to add to what Kyler's saying here is the reason there's one specific thing that is so commonly overlooked when life insurance policies are sold, whether an estate tax threshold or not, there's still needed liquidity in an estate. But here's what so many life insurance agents and advisors, I think, miss. And maybe you've heard this from your advisor, or if you're thinking about life insurance, you just know it's something you kind of need, but you don't know why. I mean, maybe you need a term policy to replace your income, but you just know it's kind of like, yeah, I need it, but who really cares? It's life insurance. All those life insurance guys, they're just trying to sell me a policy.
Hmm.
They only care about the commission. That's where people go wrong when they come in terms with life insurance. It's sold wrongly because we're not trying to solve a specific problem. And here's what I mean by that and why I want to dive into this really quick. Life insurance has to be sold with an estate planner's mindset. No, we're not attorneys. We're not going to pretend to be. But we work holistically with a lot of different estate planners and some key ones that we trust because life insurance, especially when you're planning liquidity ahead of time, has to be sold in a holistic estate plan so wealth can be transferred. That's a different conversation when it comes to life insurance. That's why Kyler calls it a vehicle. to get you where you need to go, not just this random thing that you feel like you kind of need. Does that make sense, Kyler?
100%. Yeah. And when we're talking about the estate planning aspects of life insurance, there's really one thing specifically that you need to get right in order to make sure that you're not creating a larger problem for yourself. So, life insurance per the IRS rules, and you look at the IRS rules on life insurance, that inherently that amount is going to be heaped on top of
Mhm,
your taxable estates. Now, you don't pay taxes on that, but the estate tax threshold, that's going to add that to and basically get you closer to that estate tax
mhm,
threshold. And so, why that's important is because if you have a, let's say, $25 million net worth, and you've got a $10 million life policy and you're a
mhm,
married couple, okay, what does that equal? You add that on top of 25 million, now you've got 35 million.
mhm,
So 5 million of that is going to be exposed to estate taxes if it's not structured correctly, right? So there is a way to take a life insurance policy outside of your taxable
mm,
estate, and that is through what's called an ILIT, or an irrevocable life insurance trust. You're basically saying, hey, this trust is going to own this life insurance policy. We're taking this outside of our taxable estate. Therefore, that 25 million, and then you've got 10 million that's not, it's not going to be heaped on top of it. That 25 million is going to stay
mhm,
where it is. And so now you're not going to have necessarily 35 million. It's that 5 million is not going to be taxable
mhm,
from an estate tax perspective. Let me reframe that. So that's why this is so important, to have the liquidity to make sure that you actually can pay estate taxes. But you need to be able to take that outside of your taxable estate for people that are going to have this as a problem for
mm,
them later in life. And so, like we said, this is not going to, involve a lot of people that are under those thresholds. But again, like we've said before, guess what? Laws can change. Okay.
mhm.
It's 15 million now, 30 million for married couples. That does not mean that's always going to stay there. They say it is right now, but what in the government ever stays 100%? I mean, let's be real, right? Things change all the time. The laws change depending on who's office. So we need to be planning for this stuff.
Yeah. Let's leave you with your action step today. We're short, sweet, punchy, to the point today. Who is the owner of your life insurance policy? Not many people have ever even been asked that question before because you don't think about it. You kind of think, well, duh, it's me. My name's on the life insurance policy because I'm the owner of it and the money goes to my family if I die. Well, sure, yes, that is one way to structure your life insurance. But when I mean who is the owner, is it structured in such a strategic way where it takes life insurance proceeds outside the taxable estate so that it provides immediate liquidity when your family needs it the most? And there's a very specific way that we love to do it, collaborating with our estate planners that we trust. And it's a question, especially if you're hitting the 5 million and maybe a projected 10, 20, 30 million net worth, you have to have an answer to that question. And it's not one that you just kick down the road and think, I'll get to it later. We got to review this stuff often, early and often. So I tell you what, you'll be seeing us next week, next Friday, when we answer question number 6 on the diagnostic. 8 questions that every wealth transfer plan needs to be able to answer. If you have any questions or comments about today's episode, you're going to see the phone number right here. Text us and let us know your thoughts. And if you have any questions or want to get in touch with us or one of our estate planners we trust, shoot us a message and say transfer. We'll talk to you next week.